Good morning. Welcome to kindergarten and learning about our kindergarten Jumpstart. I'd like to introduce to you our principal and our assistant principal. This is our principal, Miss Tammy Roten, and this is our assistant principal, Maricela Gomez Marquez. Now, let's meet our kindergarten teachers.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Danover.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Patton.
Hello, I'm Miss Whitesall.
Hi, I'm Miss Asia Wright.
We're going to start out with talking about our kindergarten basics. Did you know surviving the first week or the first month of kindergarten can be hard? So, I'll talk to you about all our kindergarten students and what our expectations for them are. They should be able to follow directions on the very first time that they are spoke to. They should be able to sit in their seats or on the rug for at least about 10 to 15 minutes without getting up. They should be able to speak at an appropriate time, and they should be able to know to raise their hand or wait to be called on. They should be able to speak to each other and adults with respect, and they should be able to keep their hands always to themselves. One way that you can help your child to do this is that you can work with these behaviors at home by practicing what it's like to do schoolwork. So have a little space for them to practice behaving at a table and doing a little bit of schoolwork. And doing this over the next few months is really going to help them because consistency is going to be really the key thing of just practicing that. And then if they see that those behaviors are expected home and at school, it's going to make that transition for them much easier. Now, just remember that the best way that you can help your child to prepare to have structure inside their lives and inside the school classroom is if you show them and recognize positively when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So like if you see them doing something really, really well, be like, oh, look at you. You are so ready for kindergarten. That's going to go a long way. Now, the kindergarten day. We follow an early bird and later gator schedule. Early bird students start from 7:45 to 12:05 p.m. Then our later gators come at 9:35. And so from 9:35 to 12:05, we have all of our students, which includes recesses and lunchtime. And then at 12:05, our early birds leave and our later gators stay with us to 1:50, so we can do a little bit of that differentiated instruction. Every Wednesday is a minimum day. All kinders students, they attend from 7:45 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. on our Wednesday schedules. Little quick fact for you is that remember that 5-year-olds, which we work with, only have about a 10-minute to 15-minute max attention span. So as we go through this day, we are breaking up their academic activities with some physical activity. So they're not just sitting at the carpet the whole entire time or sitting at their seats. They have time to be able to get up and move. How do I know if my kindergartner is going to be an early bird or a later gator? This is a really good question. So students who know their letters and sounds and can demonstrate maturity during our pre-testing, which we'll be doing in August or the first week of school, are usually placed as our later gators. And then our students who have limited knowledge of letters and sounds and they need practice with just the basic kindergarten skills, those are usually placed as our early birds. But we also take other things in consideration. We want to make sure our class sizes are about the same so we don't have too many early birds and too many later gators. So that is also taken into account. So please be aware of that. When we're doing our pre-testing preparation for kindergarten, that's what we're doing right now here for you. Is just remember that our purpose of our Jumpstart is to give you a little heads up of what we're expecting from your child so that you can get a little bit of a jump start in helping them. So here's the things that you can work on with them. And after we go through this and I talk about it, just remember that we're going to give you some helpful hints a little bit later in our presentation. So one of the things that we're going to be pre-testing is their uppercase letters or lowercase letters. If they know the letter sounds, now, and all of these things are out of order, and they should be able to write their first and last name, but specifically, really, if they can write their first name, they are good to go. And then if they can count to 20 and be able to recognize numbers to 10 and be able to recognize the basic geometric shapes.
Now, I know that parents always wonder what their children will need for school. You want your children to be prepared, and these are just a few things that we would like them to have. A backpack, a regular size backpack, not a mini size, without wheels, their own personal water bottle that won't spill, and please label it, label their lunch boxes, label their backpacks, label the water bottles. And of course, once they get home, they'll need a quiet place where they can do their homework, and dedicated 20 minutes per day with a grown-up to be able to complete their homework assignments. We teachers also have kind of a supply wish list that is optional, of course, but if you're able to help us out with these supplies, we would be very grateful. So we'll take a quick look at the supply list. We would love to have the big pencils, the big thick Ticonderoga pencils are best because they don't break very easily. Copy paper is a big item for us. And the skinny dry erase markers would be wonderful. Those are at the top of our list. So we'll let you take a look at that wish list. Thank you so much if you're able to help. And as far as the dress code for school, we want your children to be comfortable because comfortable children are able to learn better and to interact better while they're at school. So we want them to have just appropriate clothing that they're able to take care of on their own. Make sure that the children are able to open their own buttons and any belts and buckles that they need. And if your children can't tie their shoes yet, you can always practice teaching them, or even this kindergarten teacher's favorite, Velcro shoes. And really, they need to have closed-toed shoes because sandals would not be a good idea for running around on the playground. And they also really don't need jewelry and lots of accessories because they end up becoming toys in the classroom. So just to get started looking at some of the things that we will be looking for as far as just beginning academic basics. We start at the very beginning with even just teaching children how to hold a pencil correctly. So there's a good video there that has some tips for you to be able to help your child practice holding the pencil correctly. And as far as forming letters, when children write, we don't want them to just look at the letters and copy it any way they can. We want them to start at the top of the letter using lined paper. We want them to hold their pencil correctly. And one good way that you can practice with them at home is by modeling it. You can use a highlighter by writing the letters correctly yourself and having them write directly on top of the highlighter with their pencil. When we write their name, thank you. When we write their name, we want them to be able to write their first name correctly. And starting with an uppercase letter at the beginning, and all the rest of the letters should be lowercase letters. So there's a quick video there as well about writing their names correctly. And again, you can model that with a highlighter and have the student trace it. As far as name writing, we also need them to be able to recognize their name because their name will be written on name tags and on their cubbies. And so they need to be able to recognize what their name looks like in addition to writing their name. So we'll move a little bit more into the letters and sounds basics of kindergarten here. So as far as learning the ABCs, you might think that your children already know the ABCs if they are able to sing the alphabet song. And the alphabet song is a great song and it has a fun melody, but that's not really the same as recognizing uppercase and lowercase letters. So we do start with the very basics. We start by looking at letters and their sounds with the goal of, by the end of October, all the children will be able to recognize all the uppercase and all the lowercase letters mixed up and out of order. And also that they'll be able to give us the correct sound associated with each letter. And one thing that we really practice in kindergarten as well, and it's something that you can work with at home this summer, is something called phonological awareness, which is not looking at the letters, but really being able to hear separate sounds and manipulate the different sounds of words. It's a very important foundational skill that is a good predictor of reading success. So it includes things like blending, segmenting or breaking apart, rhyming, and isolating the sounds, syllables, and words. It's an oral activity, so students just use their ears and their mouth. We talk, we don't read anything. We're not looking at letters during phonological awareness practice and lessons. So there's a couple videos there as well that you can take a look at. That's something you can do with your children all the time, just while you're speaking. Give me a word that rhymes with that. Oh, what's the first sound you hear in this word? What's the last sound you hear in that word? It's a great thing to practice.
So in kindergarten, it's important to build letter name fluency. If you look to the left, this is what you would call a fluency sheet. You will see a mix of uppercase and lowercase letters. Just to give you some tips on how this works, you might want to set a timer for maybe a minute to start off with. Your child would put their finger under the first letter, which is U, and they would work from left to right saying the name of each letter. When the timer stops, you can kind of put like a mark where they ended. And this is just something that you want to practice with them daily, and you'll be able to see them grow in their letter name fluency. In our classroom, we follow a specific routine. We use sound spelling cards. How this works is there's actually a video right here that you can look at so that you can kind of prepare students with these cards. The routine usually starts by saying the letter, which is A. Then you would say the object name, apple. And then you would say the sound of the letter 3 times, a, a, a. And then you would say the letter name A. So just to repeat, we would say A, apple, a, A. And then we would move on to the next letter sound card. Here are some fun videos to teach. I'll go through a few of them. If you just click on this link right here, it'll bring you to YouTube and it'll go over the ABCs. It's just a fun way for students to learn. And usually it engages them when they're singing. So that's what this video kind of encompasses. Here's another video that shows our letter sound cards. And this is another video as well. If you click on the link, what do the letters say? It'll bring you to the video, or you can click on the video itself and it goes through letter sound cards. And lastly, this is Jack Hartman. We use him a lot in our classroom. He's a lot of fun. He goes over letter sounds, recognizing letters. He even does sign language with letters. He goes over shapes. He goes over numbers. He's a lot of fun. Usually we take our brain breaks because, like we said previously, kids only have an attention span of 10 to 15 minutes. So he's great to just put on when they need a brain break. And here are some fun websites. They're all free. If you click on the links, it brings you right to the website. There's no login information. There are just some fun educational games that really engage the students.
All right, now let's jump into ways that your child can practice numbers and shapes. So the first thing, we have a couple of goals for your child. The first one is by October, we would love for students to be able to count to 20. And there are great ways that you can have them practice, make it so that it's fun and not kind of boring and repetitive. So you can use songs, videos, clapping, anything that gets them engaged with that. So there's an example video for you to try there. And then the next goal that we have for your child is that by the end of May, we would love for them to be able to count to 100. So check out these videos for that. Moving right along, another important thing in kindergarten is finger counting. So we want them to be able to use their fingers to count, and that helps them correlate numbers to objects. That's called a one-to-one correspondence. So for example, if you had 5 pennies on the table, you want to make sure that your child could count each penny on that table, not skipping numbers or skipping objects. And we're going to have a routine that we follow in the classroom. So I highly suggest that you check out this finger routine video so that your child already knows how to do that once they get to the classroom. Next thing, we have our own number routine. So if you check out the video and if you check out the link, there are examples about how we practice counting, number recognition, number formation, and again, that one-to-one correspondence. And then going back to number recognition, your child needs to be able to recognize numbers out of order to 10. That's important. When students start practicing numbers, if they learn it in order, they'll just assume that each number might be in its order. So you want to make sure that they can not only count, but they can recognize those numbers out of order. So a great way to do that is getting flashcards, maybe start them in order, once they get the numbers down, then make it a little game and say, okay, I'm going to mix up 2 numbers and then I'm going to mix up 3 numbers. And that way, the better that they get, it's like more of a challenge and they can practice that way. Next, number writing. So by October, we would love for your child to be able to correctly write numbers from 0 to 10. And by the end of kindergarten, we want them to be able to correctly write the numbers 0 through 20. Writing correctly includes writing from the very top of that line all the way down to the bottom line. So you can have them practice with the worksheet. Another great one is a highlighter. So if you write the number correctly for them and have them trace it, or maybe even vice versa. Kids love those highlighters. So if they do a great job writing their numbers, maybe they can go back and trace those numbers with their own highlighter. All right, moving on. And our last slide for you is shapes. So we want students, I'm sorry that the thing looks a little funny, but the students need to be able to recognize and follow shapes by October, the following shapes, excuse me. So all those shapes for them to be able to know and recognize. And then a great way to have them learn that is through video. So click that link at the top in blue so they can start memorizing shapes. And then also have them practice shapes everywhere in the house. So if you have a clock, ask them, what shape is that? If you have a microwave, a TV, whatever you have, make it a game so that they can recognize those shapes in real life.
Okay. Well, thank you for this joining us and learning a little bit about our Kinder Jump.